guys. I'm here in Los Angeles, and I'm here with Caroline Tran.
Hey everyone, welcome to my studio.
Yeah, and so we're just gonna, I just want to take some time, get to know you a little bit. So why don't you tell everybody about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a Los Angeles-based photographer. I shoot everything from weddings to babies, boudoir, and branding content as well.
I saw a statistic that you posted the other day is like 85% of photographers will go out of business within 2 years, you said?
Well, it's, so 50% will go out of business within the first year. Mm-hmm. And this is, I think, a really wide pool, right? This includes all the hobbyists who pick up a camera and throw up a website and think they have a business now. So of all the people who start, 50% will be out of business in that first year. Of that, a smaller percentage of them will make it through the third year. And then, but by the time we get to 10 year, it's basically like 2%. 15% makes it to the third year and 2% makes it to the 10 year.
I always tell people, I say, if you can get through 3 years in the creative industry,
Mm-hmm.
If you can get through 3 years, you have a business,
Mm-hmm.
most likely.
Yeah.
You have a business.
I mean, there's a reason why you can only claim a loss for up to 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Because after 3 years, if you're still a loss, I believe the whatever, they consider you a hobby. So you can't keep, you can't even, they won't even give you a business license after that, right?
I think if you can get through 3 years, and this is my totally anecdotal, not scientific analysis, but like, I think people, if you can get through 5 years, you should have a business that actually is functioning properly. Mm-hmm. That has like a regular stream of, it's now obviously some people do it faster, but like I think most anyone who follows certain, like who's good, who doesn't suck with people, who knows like basics about marketing, like literally if you just put yourself up in the knot wedding wire and you did a good job and you were nice to people, after 5 years you should have a really functioning business. But why do you think it is that so many people?
I would say even 3.
After 3, definitely. Yeah. But after 5, it should just be running.
Right. Yeah.
After 3, you should have a good income. After 5, you should just be like, look here, I have leads showing up. I have all these referrals. I'm well known in my industry.
In an ideal world, by year 5, if something happened to you, your business should still run.
Yes.
Like that's always my model.
A real business. You're a real business.
Exactly. But I think a lot of people don't treat their business like a real business. So for example, at one of my talks at WPPI last month, people were asking about social media and marketing. And I was talking about some of the marketing tools that Instagram has. And one of the audience said, yeah, but don't you have to have a business profile in order to have those features? And I'm thinking, aren't you a business though? And they're like, yeah, but if you're a business, I think like you're gonna have to spend more money on it, right? So I feel like then when I asked around, I realized I forget that there's a lot of photographers or just creative business owners in general. When they're first starting out, it usually started off as a hobby and they're afraid to transition it, to treat it like a real business, but not realizing that by not treating it like a real business, they're also prohibiting themselves to become a real business.
Very few educators, though, are educating people in that way, though, because what I've seen, the best way to make money off people is to make them think they are the biggest, that they're the star of the story, and to make them think about themselves and sell that. And I think there's truth to it. Like not everyone is cut out like to do what we do with Stop Go Love. Not everyone is cut out to do education classes. Not everyone, like that isn't everyone's path. But at the same time, I think everyone needs to somewhat depersonalize their business and think about it like a business and depersonalize even the art, which is really, really hard for people because they're like, this is my baby. This is my art. Like I know for you, you're like, oh, I have this business idea. I'm going to start this business. It happens to be photography. Me, I was like, I don't know, 11 years ago, I'm like, oh, this new camera came out, the Canon 5D Mark II. I teach high school video. I could shoot what those guys are shooting. I could do that, and I need more money. So let's do that. To a friend of mine, we were starting a business. We were not, and I had an exit strategy, and I knew how much I could resell them for, and how much I paid myself out of the first 3 years, I think maybe 20 grand out of like 250 grand revenue. Because we were like, we're starting a business.
Right.
And if it doesn't work out, I don't want to have any risk, any debt, any problems. I don't mind putting sweat equity into something, but I don't like to lose money.
Right.
And it's like, that's a business.
Right.
Like, that is not how most people are taught to run their business. They're taught expressing yourself. Yeah. And that is valid, but it's both and. It's not either or.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I do feel that people who are pushing the message, like, just follow your dreams and money will follow. Like, it doesn't quite work that way. If I followed my dream, I would be laying out on the beach and soaking in the sun all day.
Yeah. My dream would be playing in a heavy metal band. Right. That would have been my dream when I was 18.
So I think there's a balance, like, you can't tell somebody just do what you want, just do what makes you happy, and money will follow. Like, the money will come.
Yep.
But I do also believe that if you can make the two meet together, if you can now do what you love, but also have a structure in place and a system in place to monetize it, now that's the ideal world.
That's the ideal world. And I think, I do believe, and I sound like I'm kind of down on chasing your dreams, but I'm really not, because I think the real dream is independent, like financial independence and the ability to control your own work environment. And I think that's the dream.
Right.
That's the dream that you should be pursuing, the dream to be able to, like you said, get sick and continue to make money. Like, for me, I have 120 weddings a year happening. I'm not shooting. I'm not shooting these weddings.
Right.
Someone else is shooting most of these weddings.
Right.
My clients are just as happy. The vendors I work with are just as happy. They're calling me, letting me know, oh, this guy did a great job. Your guy. We love you guys. I feel like we're living the dream.
Right.
Like,
and again, like, I think this is where I'm coming out with the business course in the next couple of months, working on it. But one of the big messages I push there is, like, you have to chase your own dream, so not someone else's dream.
Yep.
So just because your sister's dream is to have a stable income, like, I mean, like a 9-to-5, like same amount every month, like, that might not be your dream. Your dream might be to work internationally and travel, but you have to also know what that means too.
You have to be willing to pay the price, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So your sister's dream might be to have a stable 9-to-5 so she could be home with her kids. Maybe you don't have kids. You don't need to chase that same dream. If you don't have kids, then maybe you can afford to travel the world. But life changes, happens. Maybe you meet someone down the line and now you have kids.
Yeah.
Right? So then you might have to pivot your business. And so just being conscientious of what your actual goals are so that you can work towards that.
Yes. There's probably some bad dreams, like stupid dreams that are dumb. But for the most part, most people's ideals and dreams have a lot of validity and value to them. And, there's no single path to achieving them or whatever. But at the end of the day, I do think there's some fundamentals that everyone can apply to, like, not close.
Right.
Right. And I think that's what we're like, when you brought that statistic up, it made me think, like, that's really sobering. We did a podcast recently and we talked about finances and I was telling people, I was like, the average wedding in America is only spending less than $2,000 on wedding photography and $1,000 on wedding filmmaking. 70% of brides. Only for wedding filmmaking, only 1.5% of brides are spending more than $5,000.
Wow. That's a nationwide.
That's a nationwide statistic. It's real. There's enough data, and anyone who's like, oh, there was only 12.
So you're after 1.5% of the market.
Everyone is, and everyone's being funneled there. Everyone's being told, like, raise your prices, and I'm like, the demand does not exist for all of us to raise our prices. You're going to pretty much set it up that only the best people work. Because if everyone tries to go there, then the brides are going to go, or we're all going to have to lower our prices, actually.
Right, then it's a race to the bottom at that point.
At that point. And so it's like, I'm always trying to tell people, I'm like, just figure out your market, meet whatever the demand is, and be clever.
Yeah.
If you're in a market where the client brides don't care how good the work is, they don't care at all.
Right.
Hire people, shoot whatever, shoot 200 weddings, do a good job, deliver a good service. That's just as artistic in my mind and just as creative, and it doesn't hurt the industry and it doesn't destroy anybody.
In my business course, one of the examples that I give is I use restaurants as an example. So for example, you have Chipotle and you have, I'm trying to think of like more nationwide, but you have like Wolfgang Puck, or
Yeah,
right,
a Border Grill, some high-end,
right, like
expensive
higher, yeah,
Mexican
right.
restaurant.
Exactly, yeah, Chipotle or Border Grill even, right? So you can either go to Chipotle and get something for under $10, or you can go to Border Grill and get the same thing.
And I do both.
Right. Yeah.
Depending on the situation.
Yeah. But if you both are successful restaurants, right?
Yes.
They have different business model. One is that you sit down, you get good service, you're being judged by your service. One is you walk up to the counter, you order, you tell them what you want, they hand it to you, you go seat yourself, right? You get what you pay for too, but people are expecting that, and that's okay. So in your business, it's like, which one do you want to offer? So you can either be high volume, you can be like, Chipotle and dish out the lots of volume, have lots of people trained
It's all
under
about
you.
consistency.
Exactly.
And just delivering.
You can go to any Chipotle and it's going to be the same results,
Yep.
right? You can rely on your chicken bowl is going to be a chicken bowl no matter if you got it at Chipotle here or in another state.
Many people love Chipotle.
Exactly.
They would actually prefer Chipotle.
Right, yeah, and I love Chipotle. And so if you're going to be the Chipotle, then you can do that. You get a team of you have to have a system to train them, get them all to be similar, and now you are going to reach that certain market.
That's interesting.
And you can now offer, say, wedding videography at a much lower price. It's accessible, but people are also not expecting fancy plating or anything,
No.
right? It's just throw it together.
It's a low touch customer experience. They're not going to demand a ton of your time.
Yep. But it's a certain customer, and knowing
Yes.
that's what they wanted. They want it in and out, simple, just give me
Well, and it's
predictable.
actually the majority of customers.
Right, yeah,
The majority
it's
of
the
customers they care about value and convenience. And then the bottom of the market, it's all about price, and the top of the market, all about exclusivity.
Yeah.
And
So
they're all valuable.
There's a huge, it's 98.5% of the market, basically, right? So
For
that's a huge
filmmaking
market.
or photography, it's probably like, I think it was something like 6% of brides are spending more than $5,000.
So
it's
now
better
it's
for you.
94%, right? But either way, there's a huge percentage of people, and you can definitely cater to them and come up with a business that really pleases them. Or you can go on the other extreme and be like, say, your French Laundry or your, I don't know, Ruth's Chris or Morton's Steakhouse. I'm trying to think of
Or even more
restaurants
elite. You can the people that I don't know. There's someone. What's that restaurant that just closed in Denmark? It was the #1 restaurant in the world. Do you know what's interesting about that guy? He works in American school cafeterias now, trying to rework.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
But sorry, but regardless,
Right.
that was a $400 restaurant.
Right.
And there are photographers, the Jose Villas, the people like that
Yeah.
are providing a $40,000 product.
Right.
That it's all about exclusivity.
Right.
Is the food way
So-
better? Is the photos way better? Who knows? The brand
that's
is
subjective.
It's
but-
the brand.
Right. But that's where you would have to know, for example, if you are going to, when I go to my 3 Michelin star restaurants, I expect them to have very fancy napkins. I expect them to maybe even put the napkin on my lap for me.
Yep.
I expect them to have the option of whether I want a dark napkin or a light napkin because I don't want the lint to get on my black clothes.
Yep.
But if I go to Chipotle, I'm not. And if Chipotle actually did that for me, I would be freaked out a little bit, right? So it's the same thing with if you're running this business. Know your market and know what they're expecting, And if Chipotle tried to do that kind of service for that same price, they would go out of business.
Well, and here's the thing: the restaurants is a great example because the market is not necessarily dictated by the service delivered. You could have you could say hey, I'm going to move into rural Idaho and put a 3 Michelin star restaurant, and there'll be no demand for it.
Right, yeah.
Because the customer is not there. And so some of you are 3 Michelin star photographers, and you're not living in a 3 Michelin star photographer area. There's very few markets that are going to support you, and you either have to be international
Right.
or live in New York City or Los Angeles or
Right.
somewhere So the reason why I'm bothered by that message and why I think we need to tweak it a little as an industry is because we're basically creating one ideal.
Right.
And saying this is who you should be, and we're going to funnel everyone into top. And it's
Right.
no, there's a lot of ways to be.
Yes.
And just be professional.
That goes back to what I was saying, how I start the course, which is what is your dream? Don't measure your success based on someone else's benchmarks, because maybe Jane over there who is single, her goal was to travel the world and be a destination wedding photographer, and she can do these adventure shoots. I have 2 kids.
Yep.
If I measured my success based on her standards, I would be a failure.
And maybe she got super lucky too, and she couldn't. It's not even a business model. She just happened to run into someone.
Actually, I know somebody who is an adventure photographer like that, and when I talk to her more about profits, she doesn't profit.
Yeah.
She charges basically what makes up for the fee of her travel.
Well, do you know Binge Heish? Mm-hmm. Binge, the original adventure photographer, right?
Mm-hmm,
He kind of created that genre. But I shot a wedding with him in San Francisco last year, and it was just a normal, basic wedding. He shoots 40 weddings a year, 35, 40.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And he runs his education classes,
Right.
and he's doing all this. I mean, the dude's a hustler. So, what you need to realize if you're starting out and you're listening and you're watching you're watching these successful people with this very curated brand image, is what they're actually doing is not always what they're communicating publicly.
Right.
And that's not deceptive.
It's not bad. For example, if you want to shoot more adventure, and let's say you only have 1 or 2 adventures that year, show the heck out of
market
it.
it.
Yeah, but take the other gigs too, because you need to pay your bills.
Yes. And I think that's where the miscommunication happens is I turned this bride down. I heard a person say it yesterday, they said something like, I've realized I don't want to work weddings that are big. I only want to work these low, intimate weddings. And I'm like, so you don't want to work weddings with more referral opportunities. You only want to work weddings with less referral opportunities, with smaller budgets, with less big deal planners. That's what you're really saying. And if you're comfortable to say, I want less opportunities to succeed, I'm fine with that. I'm so successful, I don't even need it. Awesome. Great. That's your decision. But you're not actually creating more of those good opportunities by turning down the ones you don't want. And I think that's what people need to realize as a business person. So I think what we're both passionate about is giving people options and letting them know there's a lot of valid pathways to success, and you should be measuring success based on your goals and not based on what someone else tells you. So you're doing all this education stuff. Meanwhile, you're still shooting crazy amounts of work. You do a lot of kids and families, right?
Yes, I do.
That's so crazy to me.
I love shooting kids, but there's one this
that's
past.
loud.
Okay,
That's
we can take a pause on that one. We are in downtown LA. In the midst of-
So those watching this, we're in downtown LA, so you get the authentic sounds of LA.
Yes,
And,
isn't it soothing?
It is so great.
The peaceful sound of construction.
It's funny about all the construction stuff is you actually tune it out.
Yeah.
You don't notice it till you're
our white noise.
Yeah. What the heck were we talking about? Families. So you do a lot of family work. In the beginning of when we started out, we used to do, we would do school portraits.
Nice.
So we'd go to schools and set up our flashes and do 400 pictures. And I was like,
that's volume.
I was like, screw this. I hate this. I don't want to work with kids. I take pictures of my own kids, and that's it. But what I've seen, first of all, I love people's work when they work with kids. It's beautiful. I've me as a dad now, I'm like, I want someone to take pictures of my kids. I see it's so valuable. What's the secret for working with crazy kids?
I think you have to play with them. I think you have to have games to keep them engaged.
So wedding couples.
Yeah, exactly. I think also planning around their nap schedule is also really important, which brings me to a great point of, in the past, I used to schedule, when early on in my career, I was not as confident with light. So I used to schedule kids shoot based on golden hour.
Yeah.
Which wasn't always the best mood for kids.
Yeah. It's that lunch, dinner time.
Yes.
Hangry season.
Exactly. And so most kids are happiest in the middle of the day when the sun is right above. And when I first started, I also didn't have a studio. So I was shooting in the park at high noon, basically, right? Right after their lunch or right before their lunch. And so what I found that really helped my portrait session was being able to work with their nap schedules and learning how to use the light, even if it meant shooting their portraits at 11:30 in the morning.
Yeah. So how do you find this crazy just breadth of various things you're doing, plus your home life, plus all this, like, how do you balance all that and keep moving the ball forward, knowing that you're making progress in all these different areas? Do you find that to be challenging, or do you feel like you've found some tricks to keep moving forward in all the areas and not letting them all kind of slip? Or maybe you're putting things down on purpose.
There's some things I have to put down, and honestly, I have no concept of time. And for me, I remember last year I had a business coach, and I sat down with him and I told him all the things that I wanted to accomplish this month. And he was like, okay, which included filming and releasing a new e-course, launching a new photo product, like a new type. I do what I call this thing called AB Seasons, which is I create an ABC book for kids based on but it's like a whole new product that I'm trying to launch, right? And I forgot what else I was trying to launch, but I remember there were 4 things I was trying to launch at the time. And he's like, okay, and when do you want to do this by? I was like, this month. He's like, okay, let's break this down. To film this new course, how long does it take? What do you need to do? Okay, I have to write up the script. I have to film it. I have to edit it. Right, I have to market it. And once we started putting time frames on all this, and same thing with the photo thing. I want to launch Mother's Day mini sessions, which is what I do every year. Okay, how long does that take? What do you need to do? And once he started putting timestamps on everything, I remember that moment when it just hit me like a ton of bricks. That's like, oh shit, you mean I don't have infinite time in a day? And it was I needed to take a moment at that time just to but I really want it all done now.
Yeah. Naturally, I'm a person who always bites off more than I can chew. But because we also do development for companies, web development and software development, that side of our business, that's all
you guys
hourly
so
work.
Yeah.
And it's running teams, and it's running weekly sprints,
Yep.
and it's evaluating time.
Yep.
And then I'm charging by the hour, and then they're going, you said it was going to take this many hours, and it took this many hours. So I've gotten pretty good at that over the years, and I think that has been the number one skill that we've used to scale our business is how long will things actually take?
Yep.
When did we just screw up and take too long? Because then we're going to have a conversation hey, that was supposed to take 12 and it took 18. What the heck was going on, bro? Or lady, whoever's doing it.
Yeah.
And I would say that is one of the most undereducated skills in our world, because there's this whole skill of basically do whatever it takes to do a good work.
Right.
And most people aren't busy enough.
Right.
So
I had to have that conversation with some of my contractors before as well. And so I do have a team. Yep. Just for full transparency, I can't do all this by myself. No. So I do have a team. But what I was realizing was, for example, I would tell, my manager would say, I want to do album design. I was like, are you sure? We could send that out. She's like, no, I really want to do it. And then in the beginning, I just let her run with it. And then afterwards, I'm like, wait a minute, how long are you actually taking on this? So what I had to do is you can do this if you can keep it within 2 hours. Because if you can't keep it within 2 hours, it's more.
How are you tracking that?
She has to log her hours as she's doing it.
Us as well. Yeah. Here's a pro tip. If you're running teams, make them log their hours.
Yes.
If you're not making people log their hours, I promise you're losing money.
Yeah.
We're talking about systems and developing systems. We just did if you haven't checked it out, we just did a 2-part episode on our systems that we've used to run our business, which we go literally from lead capture to lead processing, and really what we define systems as, a system is something that tells you when is something done, how something is done, by whom something is done. And that's what it will help you. And so you have teams, and we're talking about tracking their time and all this stuff. And really this idea of it still can be good if I don't do it.
Right. Well, I have a personal model that I don't ever want to do anything twice.
Yes.
So if I ever find myself repeating a task, whether it's designing an album or writing the same email to somebody, I need to, in my company, we call it a run book. So I have a run book, and the idea is that I can pick up a high school intern somebody off the street to come in, and I should be able to tell them, hey, I need this package shipped out. They should be able to open up the run book, shipping out a package. Okay, where do I get the address? How do I wrap it up? What's the process? They should be able to just walk through it. If I was to say, hey, I need prints ordered, they should be able to open up to the page and see, okay, what kind of print, and
That's really fascinating.
yeah, so all of my team, they're required to basically document their processes. I have them do it. I don't do it.
Yeah.
So as I'm developing a concept, I have to be the one that's doing it, and I enjoy the developing part of it, but I never want to repeat it. So for example, if we're working with a new album, I will design it the first time going through it because I want my touch on it. But I am documenting that process, or I have my assistant next to me documenting the process. Then afterwards, I should be able to hand that to somebody and they should be able to duplicate it.
Well, and that's the thing is like, people who think about, you're not just scaling your business in terms of like, now I make more money. That's what most people mean. I'm scaling my business. I'm making more money.
Yeah.
What you're trying to do is scale your processes and scale the art, that it's reproducible and that other people can do it. Like, in my personal opinion, you should be able to even just scale your look.
Right.
Like, you should be able to give your camera, because that's what it is. This is my style.
Yep.
Hey, guy, take my camera, shoot it, and nobody knows the difference.
That's really what inspired my education courses, actually, my online courses, because my idea was I want to train associates. So if I'm going to be training them, how can I break down my style so that they can emulate it and have the tools they need to reproduce it? So as I was coming up with this training for them, I was like, I should just film it and sell it too.
Yeah, we do 3 days of training every year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
2 of them off-site, 1 of them for just assistants.
Yeah.
So we have our main lead shooters, and that's 2 days of literally like film review and going through all the footage, saying we're using this focal length for this time of day.
Yep.
Here's the lights we're using. Here's our lighting strategy. Here's all the video of it.
Yeah.
Here's everything that we're doing. And then we have an assistant day where we're saying, here's the process. You walk in, you carry your thing here. I'll literally walk through, like, when you walk into the ceremony, take 1 trip. Don't take 3 trips. Here's how you set up tripods. That's how detailed you really need to be. If you're thinking, and this is where maybe somebody can go, is it for me for teams?
Right.
If you don't think that way, if you're like, oh, what the heck are you talking about? That's not how my brain works.
Then you might be happier as a team member.
Yes.
Right? Like, not everyone would be happy being the team leader. So it does take a certain amount of crazy, I think.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. And so, but I'm also aware of that. And so a lot of my team members, they are more than happy to be like, just tell me how to do it and what to do. I just want to go out and create, or I just want to, I like being around
that's because it's becoming like a real industry. And that's what's exciting to me is like, there are careers for different types of people now. And that's a lot of people, they want it to be like monocultural in that like, there's one job, it's the artist.
It's like what you said, everyone's vying for that 1.5%, or everyone is made to believe that they have to fit in that 1.5% when that's not reality.
If you're burnt out and you don't like, I'm assuming you're this way too. When I think of a process that I can make, it makes me so excited.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can come up with this, and I can do this workflow. Here's a tool I can use. I can use this automation. I'm going to be able to scale myself and do 20%. If that literally makes your eyes roll back in the back of your head, you might be better suited as just a sole artist, and that's what you need to do, or working for someone else. And guess what? That's totally awesome. You shouldn't feel less than for that.
Right.
And I think that's where we're headed. And I look at the industry and I'm like, I think we're about to enter into like a new golden age of more opportunities for people to have careers in the creative field.
Yeah.
And I think that's really exciting. So you're educating people on running their businesses, but also on creating beautiful work. You have a whole range of courses, but I know one you're really excited about that's coming out soon is this lighting course. Tell me about that.
So that one is launching March 24th, depending on when this comes out. So for those who are tuning in right when this comes out, it might time perfectly.
Yeah.
Yep. But this one basically came from the lessons that I've learned when I had to try to make my children's shoot be successful. Couple things was I started offering mini sessions. The purpose of mini sessions was to get as many shoots in one day as possible. And it served two purposes. It started off with holidays, because at that time, everyone wanted holiday photos. And my calendar was just getting crazy with families. And, on top of weddings too, I was like, I need to figure out a more streamlined way to help these people get their holiday photos without breaking my back doing it. So I was like, okay, let me see, how can I squeeze it all into one day? So I book them now half an hour apart. Families half an hour, and I get about 18 families in a day. The other...
what's your season for that? Like 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
So I usually offer it, so it's like one weekend in LA. So I do Friday, Saturday, Sunday in LA, and then I do San Francisco for 2 days as well. So, but this one served two purposes. One was, like I said, to be able to just maximize the number of families that I'm able to help. But two, it's cheaper than my normal portrait rate because it is a shorter one. And so it allowed me to, one, keep in touch with some of my old clients who I may have priced myself out of, who may not be able to pay my normal fees nowadays, but they're able to still stay connected with me with this lower product, cheaper product, I guess, or more affordable,
more efficient product.
Yeah, and then also I have a lot of families or fans who just love my work, but who also can't afford my regular
or they're not
rate.
Getting married, or
yeah. So this one made it just. It was a very approachable product that was efficient for me, but also very affordable for a bigger mass. Like we said, like if I'm usually catering to like the 6% or whatever, right? This allowed me to dip down a little bit further, maybe to accommodate 10% of the people. But I'm also not doing it at a loss as well, because I am now able to streamline it in a way to maximize the amount of time and effort that I'm putting into this. So in order to do that, though, there were two things that had to happen. One, it required me to be able to shoot all throughout the day. It was not just golden hour. Because when I first tried to launch this, I was offering it during early morning sessions, afternoon, like late afternoon, evening sessions, and then the middle.
So you weren't doing studio.
At this time, when I first started these, I didn't have a studio. It was all outdoors. So what happened was I was now not shooting between the hours of 11 and 3 or something like that, or 11 and 2, when in reality, I could have been fitting in, like another 6 families or something, 6 to 10 more families or so, like depending on how frequently you book them. So I had to quickly figure out, how to work this high noon sun? How can I make it look flattering so that someone who books me at noon is just as satisfied with someone who booked me at 5 p.m. for golden hour or whatever time it is at the time. So I came up, and like I said, I'm really big about my thought process, and I think that has to just be with teaching. Like with teaching, when I was teaching high school, and I taught science, I remember one of the things that we were drilled was, how do you make the invisible, attainable, approachable for people, or what's the word I'm looking for? Tangible. Thank you.
How do you make the transcendent imminent?
Yes. So, a lot of these things that we do in our head, because we are veterans and we are so seasoned, and a lot of this is so second nature to us, right? That lights like this, okay, well, let me shift them this way. But how can we now break down our metacognitive process so that somebody who has no idea what's happening can also understand it now?
I think one of the hardest things for me is when I'm working a wedding, so our process is I pretty much only work with 19, 20-year-olds because they're moldable.
Yeah.
And they don't care about telling them hurry up.
Right.
But I've realized they have no concept of the pacing of the day.
Right.
The fact that you just screwed me by taking 3 trips to grab that tripod.
Right.
It's we have 15 minutes to set up and you took 4 instead of 1.
Right.
And now we're out of time. You took 30% more time than you had to. They don't know.
Right.
They don't know what they don't know. And same with lighting, right?
Yep.
It's people don't know what they don't know, even though there's self-evident concepts that are happening all day, every day.
Right, yeah.
You look at it, you go, that light looks good. I like this photo.
And
but oftentimes people don't break down why they like it or how to even get the reproducible scenario.
And I think even before that, some of them don't even realize that it's bad.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
When they're taking the photo, they don't realize it's bad. And then you open it up on Photoshop or Lightroom later and you realize half the face is dark, half the face is light. How do I edit this? It's well,
Well, I heard somebody say at a workshop, they said if you're still shooting bounce flash at weddings in receptions, you can't really charge more than $2,500. I don't know if I agree with that,
Right.
but their concept was basically like the understanding of lighting is how you next level your business, like especially in photography, but also in video. Like if you're watching a filmmaker, like if you don't know how to light people, you can't be that elite level person. And it's like
because you need to be able to deliver a consistent look regardless of the situation. When somebody hires me because they like my look, or when they hire you because they saw a photo that you liked, you need to be able to recreate that regardless of
and there's no grace for that.
Yeah.
Especially at the high end. They're not going to be like, yeah, sorry our wedding was crap, or sorry our lighting was crap, or we hired a DJ who doesn't know anything, or whatever it is. They hired all the people they hired because they thought they were awesome.
Right.
So if you call them and say like, oh, well, my work stunk. You don't like my work, but you loved the DJ, you loved the lighting designer, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, you're right, I'm an idiot, I hired a bunch of morons.
Yeah, no,
they're
going to
be
fault.
Like, it's your fault.
You didn't deliver the photos. Yeah.
It is your fault because you didn't accommodate. You expected a DJ and a lighting designer who's never ever shot a photo and an event designer who doesn't care about whatever you're doing to do your job for you.
Right. Like, for example, you can't say, oh, well, the DJ's green light is why you're all green. Like, there is a lighting fix to that. That we can do as photographers, right? But you need to know how to do that.
You do.
Yeah. So,
but also the studio thing.
Yeah.
Which is like, it allows you to open up revenue sources that are way faster, way more reproducible, way more process related, and actually a better experience for your customers.
Yeah.
Because like I've done the outdoor shoots because of the convenience reasons, where it's so hot and the person's sweating and the family's...
or so cold, or it's raining. Like, I definitely had one year of mini sessions, holiday mini sessions, where it rained. And then what do?
Yeah, you've lost the revenue, or you force them to go have a terrible experience.
Yeah.
And when they think back on it, they're like, I remember when I did that, that was terrible.
Right. Yeah, so I think having the studio was like a big thing to bite at in the beginning. I was like, oh, can I do this? Like, it was like such a hard pill to swallow. But once I did it, it was so easy. Like, it was easily justifiable because the amount of shoots I was able to do after that was awesome. And just the consistency and, but yeah, so for the outdoor shoots, I created the course All About Light. And that was to really help people who mostly shoot outdoors. It also helps for weddings. So when you get a timeline and it says, oh, you're going to do bridal portraits at 1 p.m., it's like, which is very
Enjoy
common.
your raccoon eyes.
Yes, exactly. So, I have fixes for all that, and that's All About Light. And then All About Flash came about when I started breaking down the processes that, one, at weddings, how am I troubleshooting these reception shots when there is green DJ lights going on around everywhere?
You guys deal with all the banding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, that was a really proud moment when I figured out the banding situation, because now with the using LED lights. Yep. And then, but I know it's like it is very obvious in video.
It's not always a fix for it, I'll tell you that.
But in photos you can.
Yeah.
But I've also seen it in photos too. And then also studio. How do you set up a very consistent look for the studio? Because I remember when I first started the studio, I'll be honest, I didn't use flash. And I was relying just on natural light, which is gorgeous in here.
I just think, like, why is that a badge of honor to not know how to do something well? I don't understand that about photographers. Marketable. It was just like, they're just like, oh, lover of light, natural light, lover of natural light. What they should write is, can't use my equipment.
Yeah.
Don't know how to use equipment.
Because you can make flash look like natural light.
But also, like, you should be able to, even if that's not your preferred style.
Yeah.
Like, it's not better to be less skilled. It's better to be more skilled.
Right, yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to be able to handle any situation? Yeah.
But your preference may not be available.
No.
So I love golden hour. Okay, you get golden hour like 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
What are you going to do the rest of the time? Don't shoot?
I would hope that by now the stigma that flash is all like that, front lit flash, but also the backgrounds totally perfectly, that weird looking thing that people are doing where everybody's like standing in front of a sunset, really hard lit flash, and then the sunset's bright orange, and you're like, that's not how light looks. Like, that's not By the way, some people still do that. If you're making money, great. But like, that's not what we're talking
There's
about.
a market for that too.
Yeah, we're not talking about like the Flash is using light. And I will say this, I think filmmakers have a little more of an advantage here because we've never been able to use available light. We've always had to use lights.
Right.
Or even like bringing something like this outside and having to have one guy walk around and carry it.
Yeah.
Like, because you don't have the latitude that photographers have. So we embrace lighting very early on. I know a lot of photographers that are actually using video lights now.
Yes, I do too. I use both. I use strobes and video light, but there's advantages to both.
Well, and they like the video lights because then it's a little more discreet at weddings.
Yeah.
But obviously way less power. But regardless, anyway, so you have this course about light, and so it has, is it 3 components to it?
So it's 2 components. It's all about light and all about flash. So all about light is more like just an overall view of how light in general works.
Do you do any of your science background and explain the concept?
Well, so I do break down the 5 characteristics of light. And what I'm doing in this course is I want to teach them how to see light so that they can troubleshoot light. So it's not just like, okay, do this in this situation. I do that as well. Like, here are common problems. Here's how you fix it. But the why.
Yeah.
This is why it works. This is, if you need lower contrast, here are the tricks to getting lower contrast. If you want higher contrast, this is what you do for
people don't realize is that sunlight is full spectrum light. And none of our flashes are full spectrum light. They're delivering specific wavelengths.
Right.
And even certain colors, and all color is a bounce off of a thing. So the reason why people like natural light is from the sun is that every color is in that light, and it's making everything pop, and it's making the saturation better, and all these things are happening, and that's not happening with your flash. And so you do need to understand that when you're using these lights, and obviously, the science behind it is fascinating.
Yeah, we go over how to adjust intensity, how to adjust the color, the contrast. A lot of these people, like, flash is not just like pop it on your camera and you take it as is. There's actually a lot of control that the photographer has to change the way it looks. So you can be using the same unit and I can be using the same unit and we can get totally different looks.
Yep. Diffusions and how when I'm pointing it, and even how my shutter is timed with the flash.
Right.
So who is this course for? If a person's like, kind of like wondering, is this course for me? Who would you say this is for you if?
So All About Light is for anybody who is struggling to get light to look the way they want it to look. They dreamed of, maybe they wanted more dreamy looking light and the light is not looking so dreamy for them. Or, I'm trying to get the texture, like I'm trying to shoot a white wedding dress and why is it just all white? Like I can't get the texture to come out. So if you are just struggling, anybody who's struggling with light, like I gave it to a bunch of my colleagues to watch, and like three of the 5 people, the comments were, I've been doing this for 10 years, and there were things that I didn't even realize.
Yep.
And then the All About Flash course is for anyone who is intimidated by artificial light.
Yeah, I hope we can kill that bias, especially in the photography community, that it's better to not use flash. What's interesting about light? I was reading this. I was at the Museum of Fine Art, and I was looking at some landscape people, and there was this whole movement at one point of people. I think it was Delaware, moving down to Delaware, and doing photos, and it was like literally like the axis of the Earth and the angle of light coming over the side of the Earth change it. Like if you shoot in San Francisco, the light looks totally different than it does down in Southern California. So like where you live affects light in a way that you can't even control. And so really at the end of the day, and I can say it for our region, we're shooting anywhere from Portland, Maine, all the way down as far south as like, Newport, Rhode Island. And the light in Newport, Rhode Island is totally different than the light in Portland, Maine.
Right.
And like knowing what you're gonna get and when you're gonna get it, and like the venues, the angles, what direction are you facing? Like there's a lot that you can know. Yeah. And that you can plan for, and that and you can actually start strategizing if you understand light and you understand how it's gonna be and all this. You can create unique images and actually start using that as a tool in your tool chest.
And it's such a powerful tool. Like light sets the mood for your photos. Light can make it go from either moody and mysterious to fantasy to light and airy to dreamy to ethereal, right? Like it runs the gamut. But you can create that pretty much in almost any situation. It's just depending on how you choose to diffuse it, reflect it, and even the angle that you choose to shoot it from will change the look.
And there's a lot of financial opportunities when you understand this. And because I always go back to business, right? And you not knowing how to do this is not acceptable. That's my opinion.
Right.
Like, you're a professional, be professional. And like, you're not professional, in my opinion, as a photographer, if you don't have a clue how to use flash, and off-camera flash especially.
Right.
You need to learn this basics because it will give you more financial opportunities and give your clients a more predictable experience, and it's important. So where can people find the course?
Yeah, so I have CarolineTranEducation.com, and you can see I have a posing course there, a lighting course there, and then the business course, which I'm super excited about, is going to be out soon.
I'm super excited about that too. We talked about posing, and I was telling you we have to do a posing course for filmmakers because nobody ever teaches filmmakers how to pose anyone.
How to direct a client.
Yeah, but it's like that. You're working with kids, and so like you must be good at posing.
I'm good at directing.
Are you just kind of like standing there and hoping they get into a pose and just shooting like 1,000 shots?
There's kind of multiple components to it, but with kids, a lot of it is kind of seeing the general idea of what I want the shot to look like, and then now how can I get the kid to fill in that spot? And so it's coming up with either a game or a trick.
Tricking them to stand there.
Yeah, I mean, there's things you can do. Like, for example, if I see this gorgeous scene and I just want the kid running across the scene, then I might have mom and dad waiting on the other side. Like, one mom drop the kid here, dad, be on the other side and call the kid to run over.
Yeah, kids are more like dogs, maybe.
Exactly. No, yes, kids and dogs and pets are very similar in terms of posing and directing. Yep. So then it's just I already have my beautiful photo composed. I'm just waiting for the kid to hit the spot. Yeah,
that's awesome. Hey, Caroline, thank you so much for coming on. And first of all, I love what you're bringing to the table. I like the just common sense kind of approach and I like that you not only you want to make beautiful work, but you're also have a really strong eye of helping people see the opportunities in their own business to do better.
Yeah.
And so I just think that's really incredible and really needed. Where can everybody find you besides the education stuff?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm at Caroline Tran, one word. And then I think that, my website, carolinetran.net. But I would say Instagram would be probably the best place to find me. Yeah,
definitely check out her work. It's got its own thing going because it's this mix of education, photography, and you have one of the most diverse portfolios.
Thanks. I feel like it's from a marketing standpoint, someone might say it's too spread out, but it works for me.
That's what I was interested in actually, because I was like, this person must be doing so well if she has the guts to have this much stuff on there, because so many people are they're totally funneling people into one experience, and that works for their business.
Yeah.
But I knew for you, I'm like, she must have good systems. She must have all this stuff going on because you're trying to cast a really wide net.
Yeah.
And trying to catch a lot of fish. And I think I love giving people...
And you funnel them on the back end.
Yeah, totally. That's what we do as well. I want 600 leads, and then I'm going to decide this is a Huxley Film client, this $8,000 to $10,000 client. This is a Stop Go Love client. And then we're trying to develop a low-end product, not low-end, a low-cost product, because I want it to be amazing quality and great.
Attainable products.
Attainable products, depending on when my lead comes in. Yeah. I just want to get all the leads.
Right.
And then I want to figure out what to do with them.
Yeah.
So I could see that there was a similar way of thinking, and I really want to put inspirational sources out there for people who are doing things in a different way, and hopefully if you're feeling I'm not the best photographer. I'm good, but I'm never going to be as good, or I'm not going to get the opportunity of this really amazing photographer who's shooting $10,000 weddings. But I'm really smart, and I work really hard, and I know how to make people happy, and I'm good with people. You can have a ridiculously good career.
Yeah, you can.
You could kill it. And like, if you're even a filmmaker, you could kill it. And it's like, there's no one path.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, hopefully, like someone like Caroline can teach you. Hopefully someone like myself can teach you.
You see how big the pie is, right? So
it's huge.
You just have to know which sliver of pie you want and just make them really happy. You don't have to please the entire 100% of people. You're not going to. If you try to please all 100%, you're guaranteed to please nobody, and especially not please yourself.
Well, and the comparison game too is like, it's so killer. And it's like, when you look at what you're doing, very few, I feel this way a lot. Like, I'm kind of peerless. Like, not that we're the best, but like, there's not a lot of businesses to comp with our business. So when I'm looking for mentors or people to get advice from, and that's the bad side. The good side is we carved our own niche.
Yeah.
We made our own thing that's unique to us. And there are opportunities for a lot more people to come in and carve their own thing, make their own thing that's unique to them. Yep. That's what you did. That's what we did. And hopefully that's what you can do also at home, is like, you can watch this and go like, oh, I can do this. That doesn't have to be exactly what everyone else is doing. I can do this. So anyway, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, my pleasure.
It was
Thanks
awesome.
for having me.
Thank you.
Hope to connect with you guys. Please say hi on my Instagram at Caroline Tran.
Have a great day, guys. Make sure to subscribe, do all the Instagram stuff, all the stuff that everyone tells you to do.
Click here or there.
Do all that
there.
stuff. Have a great day, guys. Bye.